Well, welcome again to another of our continuous series of summer observing. And this sixth one, we're coming down to looking at something a little bit different, and that's planets and things that move in the night. And I'm Paul Adams. I'm a JPL Solar System Ambassador, and I'm doing this for the Makerspace and also as our substitute for our Science Cafe program. So let's get in. This is a fun topic because of what is out there and what you can see. So we talk about this. The things that we're going to really look at in this session is more to help you find where the planets are. And it's kind of important to understand is that the pictures you see on TV or you see on the web are really not what you're going to be able to see unless you have a telescope. And if you do have a telescope or somebody has a telescope available, I encourage you very much to take it out to look at the planets, particularly Jupiter, because you can see belts and moons, and Saturn so that you can see the rings. And this summer, Saturn is going to be beautifully poised at the about mid-month, what's called opposition, which means it'll get its brightest look and it'll be oriented towards us. So take a look, find somebody, and get out there and try it. So let's just go a little bit deeper into this. And so planets, the word itself means they're wanderers, and they literally do move through the zodiac and the ecliptic. And the reason we bring that up to you, the zodiac and the ecliptic, and you can see this down here in this image, is that when the solar system was formed, if you can picture it, kind of like a frisbee in a way, where the sun is at the center and then the planets are all kind of concentrated in that little zone in the frisbee, that disc that you have. And really that's what happens, is that as viewed from Earth or any other, is that all of the planets move at about the same plane, which means they also follow, in a sense, is that as we look out from Earth, we're going to see them following a path that aligns close to the sun because that's what we do too. So it has a lot to do with geometry, and there's a lot of things online to help you understand it. But the key thing is that when we talk about the zodiacal constellations, there's no astrology we're discussing here, is that it is the, as viewed from Earth, it's where we see the sun appear. Now it's kind of interesting to think about it, is that if you look at Leo is a spring constellation, but really the sun will be in it and we can't see it, although we can see it in the spring. So picture the Earth moving around, and the zodiacal sign, if you want, is tied to when the sun appears to be in that part of the sky as viewed from the Earth. And the ancients figured this out, so this has been known for quite a long time, actually. And one of the things that happens is it means that because we see the sun that way, we look at the planets, they also will move through the zodiacal band, if you want, along that path. The ecliptic is actually the path of the sun, its line of eclipses, and the zodiac, or the zoo, are the constellations that you may have heard referred to as birth sign. But again, no astrology significance. But it does help us, because if you know these constellations and you see a strange looking object in it, you know that that's probably a planet, and that's what makes it really easy. So that's why we say if you know the stars, you know what is different, and that's what it does. Now, in terms of telling you where to look for the planets, I can tell you where they are now, but they change, because remember, the planets are moving, we're all moving relative to each other, and so it helps to have an app or a program to help with that. And if you go back to our second program, we talked about some of those apps. So that's what I encourage you to do to find out where everything is. And the apps will help you point it out and pick it out. One of the giveaways for a planet is it's a steady light, it doesn't twinkle. Stars twinkle, and it has to do with the atmosphere disturbance, because they're effectively just like a line of light, a very point source, and so a little change in the atmosphere will cause the path of the light to deviate, and that's what they're twinkling. You're seeing light come and go, and it's like it's flashing on and off. Whereas for the planets, they're big enough that disturbances don't disturb the light all that much, and so they appear to be a steady glow. And they're also extremely bright in the sky. So one of the great sources, if you want to read up on it, if not, go to Stellarium, Sky Maps, the Sky, that was originally Google Sky, or to Starwalk, and all of those will tell you when the planets rise, when they set, and all the rest. But a nice summary at Sky and Telescope, and it's skyandtelescope.org, observing/sky at a glance, and you have this, you can look at it. We'll give you a synopsis of what to look for every week, where the moon is, where it has moved to interesting stars or clusters. It's a great resource to tell you what to look for if you become an avid observer. And I wanted to point out these images are actually taken from there. So the July 3rd through 6th, and you're actually probably getting this at a little bit later date, but just go to Sky and Telescope, Sky at a glance, and see what you see. But we will see, looking in the southeast between 10 and 11, Jupiter and Saturn, and they will shine out very well. What's nice about this shows where they are in relation to the moon. Notice how close they are to Sagittarius, and this Alpha Cap is actually referring to Capricornus, another constellation we didn't talk about, but it gives you a sense that as long as you know those, it's there. If you're more of an early morning person, 45 minutes before sunrise, you could look for Venus, and you'll see the Pleiades. That'll be another show at a later time. But Aldebaran, which is in Taurus the bull, and this is the horns of the bull, that you do it. Again, you recognize that as an ecliptical session. So get out. It's real easy to find these planets, and you can do it. Now, of course, that's really nice to talk about the planets, but I want to give you a little bit more, and just a little bit to show you a great resource here. We talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is going to be very prominent. It's very bright. You cannot miss it. It's a Roman god, the big god. And, if you go back to look at anything, we've talked about Jupiter and how Jupiter played a role in many of the constellations we see up there. And so Jupiter roaming around helped to tell the story of the constellation. So we're bringing it all to clicking. So if you do go out, look southeast, use the tools. And one thing I'd encourage you to do is use binoculars on Jupiter. Though you probably won't see the equatorial belts, you really won't. What you will see are 4 little pinpricks of light: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. They're also referred to the Galilean moons. And if you look at those successive nights, you're going to see them move relative to Jupiter. It's really cool because, and this was what Galileo discovered, is that, and it actually changed our whole view of the cosmos, is you suddenly had other objects moving around a different body. And that was totally counter to the teachings at the time. And lots of great stories about what that means. So it's very cool. The other thing I wanted to show you is this cool facts, because if you look at Jupiter, that's great. If you don't have a telescope, you won't see much. But let me show you something very cool at solarsystem.nasa.gov/planets/Saturn. Sorry, we went one ahead. Let me go back to Jupiter. And anyway, with Jupiter, this is there. But let's go ahead and talk about Saturn, and we'll just show you all at once. And so Saturn is the jewel. It's the Roman god of wealth and agriculture. It's going to be very near Saturn this time of year. But remember, this changes over time. And with binoculars, you might see Titan, but you're not going to see the rings. I'm sorry to tell you that. It takes a telescope. But you might see that it doesn't look circular. It actually looks elliptical because the rings kind of distorted shape. Well, anyway, I'm going to take you, and we're going to look at 2 resources that you may find really fascinating. All right, so picking back up, I've gone to the NASA site, Solar System Exploration, and I want to show you that if you were wondering, like, I look at Jupiter, I see a bright light, but what is it I'm really looking at? Well, here you go. This is a nice animated globe, and I know that it'll lag when you look at the video, but you do see the great red spot is here, and if we turn it up, the aurora, you get a fantastic interactive globe of seeing what it is. The other parts that's really very cool on this site is that you get all sorts of information about it. For example, the light you see when you look at Jupiter left just about 43 minutes ago. So you're looking at Jupiter 43 minutes in its past, our current, and always the question is Jupiter still there? Well, you got to wait 43 minutes to find out. You look at its distance from the sun, and you can click, we'll put it in miles if you want, or kilometers. And oh, look, it's actually ticking because of where it's gone and how long the time is. So this gives you really some very interesting things, beautiful pictures, and I won't take you through that. I'll let you do that on your own. But then 10 things to know about Jupiter. And so you get things like it's the grandest planet, that it's 11 Earths wide, has 75 moons, the 5th one from our star, at 484 million miles. We're at 93 million, so it tells you what's going on about 5 times the distance. That's really cool. What it's made of, in fact, there are rings, that a day in Jupiter is 10 hours, but a year is 12 years. Always like to ask the question, how old are you in Jovian years? Well, you could ask that. And many other things. And then, of course, if you go through down here, you get the pop culture references, Jupiter Ascending, Cloud Atlas, Futurama, Power Rangers, Halo, and many others. So if you're really big into wanting to know what it is you're looking at, go to this site. The other thing that we have, and this is also solarsystem.nasa.gov planet/Saturn/overview. This is a beautiful one of Saturn. And you can look, beautiful picture of this, and you get to see that it's about 930 million miles from the sun. Remember, we're only 93, so about 10 times the distance. 83 minutes when you look at Saturn for that light to get to us. And then it's long day and the rest. And so as you look at this, there's pictures, there's data, and of course, flip through these pictures, you find them. But then 10 things to know about Saturn. You know that it's got 53 moons, 29, has really 82 moons. It has more than Jupiter, actually. The rings, of course, is where it's at. It's a gas giant. It's dim light. It's short day. It's 10 hours and 29 Earth years. 10.7 hours, so it's very cool. And you can go through this and look at it. And of course, more things. I think this pop culture is kind of nice because, you know, Space Odyssey, Star Trek, Deep Space Two, Final Fantasy, and even Beetlejuice, where the sandworms were, which is very cool. And Interstellar had it too. So a lot of things here for you, your family, and for kids. Well, we're coming back here, and we talk about planets, and there's so much there. Go the Sky and Telescope, get an app, and look at it. But there's something else that moves in the night, and those are satellites. And part of this is satellites. I mean, anything that's orbiting the Earth. So it could be the Moon, which we're not doing in this particular series. But there's 35,000, more than 35,000 things orbiting the Earth. And of course, most of it's junk, and you know, we do have Space Command that keeps track of that because you don't want anybody to run into that. Though we're not going to refer to the movie Gravity, that's it. But if you go out at night, you are likely to see something. All you really need to do is wait about 15 minutes, and in any one spot, about 15 minutes, you're likely to see something coming across if you have to wait. Now, when you go out there, there are lots, and I mean lots of apps, and that's really the best way to do this. A lot of apps to take you out there. So if you're really into International Space Station, you could download, it's actually, this is not an app, this one's online, but it's spotthestation.nasa.gov. And if you, the one that's for general all satellites is Heavens Above, and Heavens Above works well on the web. And there's an app, but it's only an Android app. But if you have Starwalk, you can use it, or Stellarium. All of these will show you what's happening. And I have here like a capture from Starwalk showing you what to look for, and Stellarium. So I'm going to show you just a couple brief things, but I'm going to encourage you to get out there, get those apps, and check them out if you're really into looking for satellites. Now, you're going to see them. You're going to see really what looks like a bright point of light moving across the sky. So let's go check this out. Well, one of those apps that I talked about is Heavens Above, and you can, again, download the app and put it on your Android device, or you can use Starwalk 2 on your Apple device. Again, look on your favorite app store, and you can do it, or just come here and look at it. So the interface here of Heavens Above may not be the prettiest thing you've ever seen, but you will have to log in your location and time, and you can see it's in UTC time, and we're all, or rather, our time zone in 24-hour clock. And as you look at this, it will show you 10-day predictions of satellites of interest. Starlink was Elon Musk. It's a big train of satellites that has astronomers upset because there's like 60-some satellites following each other, and that's what you'll see. Or the North Korean satellites, a secret mission from the Air Force that's still going up there, and the Hubble Space Telescope. A lot of things like this. But I'm going to click here, daily predictions for brighter satellites, and I click on that, I think. I click on it and it will come up. It may be a little lag. And as I look at this, this is really something. You look at this chart and you can see, okay, so Cosmos 2315, a rocket. Well, it's actually a booster. It's not a satellite that's going to do anything, but it shines and it tumbles through space and it reflects sunlight. Geos 3, Cosmos 16, Cosmos. You notice there's a lot of Soviet ones there. US, Falcon, that would have been one of ours. Geostat, Military Star, Rocket. So all those rockets you see launch up and they leave something behind, well, they're there. And occasionally they come down and burn through the sky. And those are really cool if you've ever seen one because they are all sorts of cool colors. But if you look at this, you can see there's a ton of stuff here. This magnitude refers to brightness, and the lower the number, the brighter it is to help you out. The time on a 24-hour clock, so we're really looking at about 9, and it tells you if you look north, it'll start about 10 degrees altitude, so you can kind of guess where that is. 90 is straight overhead, 45 is halfway, so you can figure out where that is. And when you'll begin to see its highest point, how high it'll be, what direction it'll look, and then finally coming down. So as you go through this, there's a couple ways to do this. One, you can use this chart to go out and figure out what it is that you're looking at, or the other way is to see something and then go to this chart and do it. Now remember, I gave you the International Space Station on a separate one, and you can do that. Well, what does it look like? And this is where I want to finish up. And where I have gone is I've gone to Stellarium, and I've kind of flipped it so that I'm laying on my back looking up. And I have intentionally, just so you can see it, set it for the 8th of July at 2241, which is going to be about somewhere around 1041, 1040, 10, just about a quarter to 11. And we can see that. I'm going to start this, and I'll show you what it looks like with Stellarium. So we'll close this down. And if we start that running and we begin to say, well, do we see anything moving in this picture? And well, let's see if we can speed it up a little bit. Let's jump a little bit. Oop, other way, I'm sorry. And I think we've got something. If we look, you see this little bright spot of light right here moving. And, oh, well, it went away. Let's look again. There's a little spot moving, and that spot is a satellite. Now I'm going to click on that, and sure enough, Starlink 1172, it can tell me what's up there. So the nice part about Stellarium is you can set it advanced, behind, which did. So if you see something moving in the sky, you know what time it is, you say, oh, I want to know what that was, if that was a satellite. So it's not a UFO or anything like that. It actually is a satellite coming across the sky. And if you run Stellarium and you let it go for quite a while, and you can see it's just a little point of light moving across there, you'll actually see more of these. So these are mapped on, and you can find them. And again, just remember, if you see it, click it, and you'll get an identification what it is. And I think if you really want to get carried away, you can overdo it, and you can begin to magnify what it may look like as it comes up. So anyway, that is all there for you to do. So with that, we'll conclude this particular one. So get out, look at the planets. Remember, they change all the time, so use the apps or things online. And satellites, you have several online tools or apps that you can use, and get out and take a look. So keep looking up, as the old stargazer used to say, and we have one more in this series.